Hi everybody. Today I thought you might like to explore this Keepsake Advent Calendar theatre project. I'm not giving step-by-step instructions because I did that in my previous video on the Advent Nativity Theatre, but I've put the link to it below so that you can look up the necessary details on how it's actually put together. What I thought this video could do is show you what can be done and how you might be inspired to create your own. I do give measurements in both centimetres and inches at the end of the video, so you can have a guide as to how to construct your own scene in a similar manner, and how you too can create something utterly unique and special that can be reused time and time again. What I thought I would do is just give you a little glimpse at how each figure, the actors on the stage, move one per day to build up to give you a complete scene by Christmas Eve. So here is a little video that I did with slightly speeded up movements. So this one is a Christmas village scene, as you can see, and the principles behind it are that I have taken dies I've already got and seen how I can make an advent calendar theatre from them. So I haven't bought anything specially. All I've done is tried to grade sizes so that larger figures are at the front and smaller ones at the back. And I've mixed and matched and partially die cut to get the effect that I want. And that's actually great fun to do. So the theatre itself is 21.5 centimetres high by 21 centimetres wide. And the extra half a centimetre has allowed me to make this proscenium arch that I've partially die cut and free cut to get the right height, and it's 19 centimetres, leaving 2.5 centimetres at the bottom. So once I've done that, I cut that out of cardstock, I emboss it. I use corrugated card to strengthen it. Corrugated card is very flexible, you can cut it to any size you like. It's strong, but it's also very light. And then the next thing that I've done is I've printed out a background on photographic paper. Now for this scene I've used a watercolour painting I made, photographed it, and then printed it out as an 8x10 photograph onto A4 paper, and then I've trimmed it down to size, making sure that the sky part of the picture is fully displayed. So you can choose whatever background you like. You could use Christmas background papers, you could use your own photos, anything. But I like the shiny effect that printing out on photographic paper gives, which I think is quite nice to give that bit of extra sparkle at Christmas. I've heat embossed all the figures that I've cut out. I've painted them with watercolours. You could do it with inks, you could do it with markers, and then heat embossed to give that nice shiny finish and depth, and also it strengthens them as well, which is important since this is reusable. I've also heat embossed some of the scene with sparkly embossing powder just to create that effect of snow and frost, and I've done the same on my embellishments on the front. But you could do whatever you liked. Once I've done that, I do not assemble the front and the back until the very end. I will then start with my scenes. And the way that I, just to take you through the principles, is I divide it into sections. So each figure, like this tree that is fixed, forms a key point. So that is my first fixed point, and for that first section, I have got a couple of sliders in front of it. And if you work your way back, obviously you've got to increase the height as you go through, but you're also increasing the depth, so not everything has to be at height. Some of these are lower than the front, but because you're going back in depth, you'll be able to see them when they come. So for that front section, I have just made it 3 centimeters high, and it's got 2 sliders, and that is basically the maximum that you can have. So I've called section 1 from the tree forward, and I think it's got 3 pieces of card plus an extra spacer. And just to show you that where I want things to separate a little bit more and create more depth, I put an extra piece of corrugated card in. And there are a few sections where I've done it. There's a double one where the train is, because that creates the illusion of a train line. And I think I've done another spacer at the back here, and also one behind the final tree. So it's just whatever you like to create depth. You don't have to have 24 figures. You can, of course, but you could make an advent calendar. You've got to have 24 movements. And this is a theatre and actors move, so your figures can move too. So that's section 1. Section 2, I've taken from the house is the next fixed key point. It forms a wing on the side that you can hide other things behind. It's important to consider that and use your scenery just as theatres do to disguise your figures, because you don't want them displayed until the correct day. So from the house forward, I've got another 3 sliders. I've got the door, and I've got the boy, and I've got the girl. And I've measured that height, and I've given dimensions on the crib sheet. So that is section 2. Section 3 is from the red pillar box forward, and that has just got 1 slider on it. I've got the next section is from the fence to the pillar box, and that has got the 2 hairs on it. And so basically what I do is I construct the fixed points first, and then work out what sliders I need in front of them. And you can build up your scene, but I work from the front to the back. So the next section is from the village houses here, and that's my next key point. And I've got all of these crib measurements and the pictures on this video as well. So if you want to construct something using these principles, feel free to use the measurements that I've given you. So on this one, I have got sliders actually on that fixed point piece of card, because I've got the doors. And of course, the great thing about having doors is that if you're moving, you can have more than 1 slider on each cut, because they're moving in opposite directions. So that one is opening that way, and that one is opening that way, so they're on the same slider. But in front, I've got the train, and so that connects further down, and it's significantly lower, because obviously I want it to come in as if it's coming along the train line below and into the station. And just get your heights so that your figures or your scenes with doors can be seen as you go back. Because this fixed point is high, the next one's got to be higher still. And the next fixed point for me is the little house at the back here that you probably can just see. And that's forming a little wing for the sledders behind, but it's also creating part of the scene. And that's my next fixed point. And in front of that, I've got 2 more sliders, because I've got the car and I've got this little deer. The next fixed point after that is going to be this tree line here with the snowmen. And in front of that, I have got just the deer, so just 1 slider. And then behind that, the next fixed point is my backdrop tree line, and that I have created at the right height to cover where I want Father Christmas to fly across the sky. So that's acting as a wing as well, because although the theatre arch screens players, at the further back you go, the more likely you are to see them. And that I've built up. I think the top of the tree here is about 17 centimeters high, and as you can see, I've added extra trees in front and behind to give not just a sense of depth but a sense of scene as well. And I've just got the one slider in front, which is the sledges. And then finally, the last section is actually your photographic backdrop paper, and I've created 2 slides in there. You can see one at the top, and that is for the moon. And then make sure that you leave plenty of gap between the next one so that you can fit in your corrugated card and the actual slide with the slide handle. And the next one is for Father Christmas, Santa flying across the sky. So I've worked them back in sections. So think about where you want your fixed points to be, and then decide what sliders you can have in front. I would say don't go more than about 3 sliders per section, because you end up running out of depth and height to be able to see your figures clearly. So when you need more figures, more sliders, then go back a bit with your scene, and of course up if you need to. There's no reason why you can't make this scene even deeper, in which case you can lower the height a little bit, because obviously the further back you go, the more visibility you get. So for example, if I had this the train right up against the fence, I'd lose a bit, but because I've got double cardboard between the fence and it, it's actually really quite visible. So it's just giving you the principles of how to set about it. You can think about what scene you want to create, use your dies that you've got, and just work something out. So I've got my biggest figures at the front, which are actually the cats. They're proportionately a little large, but it doesn't matter desperately. But then these figures, the girl here is a lot bigger than the sledges at the back. And so just think about size. It doesn't matter. It's not a precise science. It's just creating an optical illusion. So it's something very special, something fun to do. It's a little bit of a project. It does take a while, but there is great joy in looking at your stash and working out what scene you can create. And here you have a very unique slider shadow box advent calendar. There are not many of those about. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope it inspires you to go away and make something special yourself.